In a White House press conference today, the president said he has been watching the Occupy Wall Street protests on television and believes this is what Occupy Wall Street is trying to tell him.
I think it expresses the frustrations that the American people feel, that we had the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression, huge collateral damage all throughout the country, all across Main Street. And yet, you're still seeing some of the same folks who acted irresponsibly trying to fight efforts to crack down on abusive practices that got us into this problem in the first place.
The newest Republican presidential frontrunner in the latest Economist YouGov poll, Herman Cain, said that he has taken this message from Occupy Wall Street.
Rather than going to Wall Street, complaining to people at big banks or big businesses, why not picket the White House because the policies have failed? And so all it is a distraction on the part of those who are trying to distract from these failed policies.
Joining me now on his book tour from the Barnes & Noble in Woodlands, Texas, is Herman Cain, Republican presidential candidate and frontrunner. He's the author of This Is Herman Cain, My Journey to the White House. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Mr. Cain.
Thanks, Lawrence. It's my pleasure.
Mr. Cain, in the president's news conference today, the president came out in support of the Senate Democrats' idea of paying for his jobs bill with a 5% surtax on income over $1 million. And a recent NBC Wall Street Journal poll showed overwhelming bipartisan support for increasing taxes on incomes over $1 million. That's 81% support for increasing taxes for incomes over $1 million. Has the Democratic Party somehow managed to brainwash 81% of the American people into supporting that idea?
The answer is yes. The Democrats have succeeded at brainwashing a lot of the American people. First of all, taxing people more that make over $1 million isn't going to solve the problem. Secondly, they have just taken class warfare to another level. When for decades you are telling the American people that we ought to take more from the rich in order to help pay off our debts, but yet the debts don't get paid off, they are just playing the class warfare card. I would counter that, Lawrence, with 50% of the taxpayers now pay 97% of the taxes. I think that's pretty fair already.
Mr. Cain, you've also said in the past that African Americans have been brainwashed into voting for Democrats. That's an awful lot of successful brainwashing by Democrats. You're now saying that Democrats have successfully brainwashed Republicans, brainwashed Democrats, brainwashed 81% of the country into thinking that there should be higher income taxes on incomes over $1 million. You're willing to take your brainwash idea and accuse 81% of the American public of being brainwashed.
Okay, you asked two questions, Lawrence. Let's separate the two, okay? The first one relative to brainwashing Black Americans, they have successfully brainwashed a lot, not all. I didn't say all. They brainwashed a lot of Black Americans into just voting Democrat and not even considering an idea that would come from a conservative or Republican. The second part, yes, some people, both Republicans and Democrats, have bought into the class warfare card, but a lot of people haven't. So, you know, that number could be 81% or 85%. That just means that they've been succeeding. Now, what I'm doing is to try and unbrainwash people by presenting solutions that'll allow everybody to try and achieve their dreams based upon their own individual effort in this nation. That's what this nation is supposed to be about.
Mr. Cain, we asked our viewers to submit questions on Twitter. You won't be surprised. They're asking about the brainwashing. We have one Twitter question that says, ask him how he would ever expect to gain the African-American vote when all he's done is insult our intelligence.
Well, first of all, I did not insult the intelligence of all Black Americans. I insulted the attitude of those that will not consider an alternate idea. And the other point that I made that doesn't get talked about is I said that the good news is more and more black Americans are thinking for themselves. So they did not consider my statement insulting because a lot of them are thinking for themselves. And so I don't see that as insulting them. Now, if they want to talk about insulting, they need to look at the president when he talked to the Congressional Black Caucus and insulted black people, in my opinion, by telling them to take off their slippers and put on their marching boots when he has had nothing but failed policies. That's insulting to me, not the fact that some people won't even consider an alternate idea like my 999 plan. Take a look at it. It is not partisan.
We're going to get to that, absolutely. Mr. Cain, I want to ask you about another insult that flew through our culture this week that got a lot of attention. Hank Williams Jr. got fired from the Monday Night Football coverage team because he said this on Fox News.
You mean when John Boehner played golf with President Obama?
Oh, yeah, and Biden and Kasich, yeah,
What did you not like about it? It seems to be a really pivotal moment for you.
Come on. It'd be like Hitler playing golf with Netanyahu, okay?
Do you agree that Hank Williams Jr. should have been fired for equating President Obama with Adolf Hitler, the killer of 6 million Jews and countless other American troops and other soldiers and civilians during World War II?
Lawrence, he didn't call President Obama by name, first of all, and secondly, that was a poor choice of words, and thirdly, that was the decision of the network as to whether to fire him or not, okay? That's all I have to say about that.
Would you fire anyone?
The network's decision,
would you fire anyone in your campaign who said that sentence?
If someone in my campaign were to exercise a poor choice of words in that regard, that is a possibility. It would depend upon the context. But he did not call President Obama by name when he used that metaphor.
All right, in your book, you write, the book you're selling down there at Barnes & Noble today, you write, the civil rights movement was a few years in front of me. I was too young to participate when they first started the freedom rides and the sit-ins. So on a day-to-day basis, it didn't have an impact. I just kept going to school, doing what I was supposed to do, and stayed out of trouble. I didn't go downtown and try to participate in sit-ins. Counter to our real feelings, we decided to avoid trouble by moving to the back of the bus when the driver told us to. Dad always said, stay out of trouble, and we did. Where do you think black people would be sitting on the bus today if Rosa Parks had followed your father's advice?
My father was not giving Rosa Parks advice. Here again, Lawrence, you are distorting the intent of what I said. I was a high school student. The college students were doing the sit-ins. The college students were doing the freedom rides. If I had been a college student, I probably would have been participating. But if you are a high school student in the 10th or 11th grade, you're under 18 years of age, you didn't need to get arrested and be in the middle of that. That was the intent of what I said relative to me not being involved. Now, I was impacted by that on a daily basis simply because I was living in Atlanta, Georgia when all of this was going on. It was not prudent. This is what my dad meant. It was not prudent for a high school student to be in the middle of what was going on in terms of those demonstrations. And thanks to Rosa Parks, yes, she struck a chord with a lot of people that helped to lead to the desegregation of the buses, as well as she was a big part of the whole civil rights movement. And we are all very grateful to her for that.
Mr. Cain, in fact, you were in college from 1963 to 1967, at the height of the civil rights movement, exactly when the most important demonstrations and protests were going on. You could easily, as a student at Morehouse between 1963 and 1967, actively participated in the kinds of protests that got African Americans the rights they enjoy today. You watched from that perspective at Morehouse House, when you were not participating in those processes, you watched black college students from around the country and white college students from around the country come to the South and be murdered fighting for the rights of African Americans. Do you regret sitting on those sidelines at that time?
Lawrence, your attempt to say that I sat on the sidelines is an irrelevant comparison that you're trying to deduce from that particular point in time.
It's in your book.
No, Lawrence, I know what's in my book. Now, let me ask you a question. Did you expect every black student in every black college in America to be out there in the middle of every fight? The answer is no. So for you to say, why was I sitting on the sidelines, I think that that is an inaccurate deduction that you're trying to make. You didn't know, Lawrence, what I was doing with the rest of my life. You didn't know what my family situation may have been. Maybe, just maybe, I had a sick relative, which is why I might not have been sitting in or doing the freedom rides. So what I'm saying, Lawrence, is, with all due respect, my friend, your deduction is incorrect and it's not logical, okay?
Well, I gave your book a fair reading, and I didn't read anything about a sick friend. What I read was a deliberate decision to not participate in the civil rights movement and the civil rights protests, and I read a misleading sentence that indicated that in time you were, that what you tried to say here in the show, that you were in high school at that time, when in fact you were in college from 1963 to 1967, right where
Lawrence,
it was happening. In Atlanta, Georgia.
Lawrence, I'm gonna try this one more time. I graduated from high school in 1963. Okay, I didn't start college until the fall of 1963. Now, I don't understand why you are trying to make a big deal out of this small point when we have an economy that is on life support. We got 14 million people out of work, and you want to try and deduce something that is incorrect from my words in my book, okay? Let's do the people of this country a service, Lawrence.
All right, let's go to something you said on The View the other day. You said on The View that being gay is a choice, and we got a question on Twitter today that says, how can you say that being gay is a choice? Did you choose to be straight?
Lawrence, there will always be a difference of opinion. Like I told Joy Behar, she has her opinion, I have my opinion. It's a difference of opinion. Next question, please.
The next question is coming up. We'll have more of my interview with Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain. He has said he would not run as Rick Perry's vice president. Would he run as Mitt Romney's vice president? And why did he avoid serving in the Vietnam War?